Okay, good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's virtual plant clinic. My name is Bill Lester. I'm with University of Florida Extension Service here in Hernando County, and with me today are my co-host Colby, who's the Hernando County Florida Friendly Landscape Coordinator, and Master Gardener Bernie, who is one of our Master Gardener volunteers, and all three of us are here to answer your lawn and garden questions. So if you're watching us live, if you're watching us recorded, go ahead and just type in your question and we'll try to figure it out. And if you're watching us recorded, I'm going to show all of our contact information in a little bit so that you can email us directly. And if you have a lawn or garden or tree or vegetable or whatever kind of problem you have, if it's something growing in your yard, go ahead and ask and we'll all help figure it out. So good morning, buddy. How are you? It is probably a lot colder up there in the Panhandle than it is right here. And it was pretty darn cold this morning because I had ice on my windshield.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, thankfully, Mary let me borrow her little portable heater that's in my office to keep things bearable.
I'm not built for the cold. I would much rather it be warm. I walk outside and dang near lock up just trying to get to my car.
Yeah, I come from Indiana and I'm here because I didn't want to be cold anymore. And you're right. They're redoing the heat and air conditioner setup in our building, so we don't really have anything except what nature's giving us this morning. So it's a little cool, and we can't do much about it. And of course, Dr. Lester got to hog the only little tiny heater in the building. So I don't blame him.
I need to buy another one. We have, I don't know how many at the house that we've been using, and they're cheap. Amazon. I'll go on Amazon today and I'll have it by tomorrow, and then it'll warm up.
Well, of course. You know, we had a problem this year so far in that where I live, I have had no frost. And people don't understand what frost does for you. It kills off all the little bad guys that are trying to grow in my lawn. And I have got a tremendous number of plants flowering in the lawn right now because they didn't get the frost that it takes to turn them black and fall down on the ground. So if you live in an area where you normally get a good frost by now and you haven't had one, if you don't use some pre-emergent, you're going to find weeds that you never imagined existed. This is going to end up being the weed from hell season. It is really going to be bad because all those things flowered. If they had just got zapped before they flowered, it wouldn't be a problem. But I probably added 500,000 weed seeds in the 3 acres that I mow, and that's going to be a lot of plants that I don't want there. And if it's bad for me, it's going to be bad for everybody else. So think about that. And if you don't normally use a pre-emergent, this might be the year that it really is going to pay. So just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and occasional cold weather and freezes and frosts help to reduce the population of pest insects. So aphids, spider mites, whiteflies, pickleworms, all those different various things, they won't go extinct from the cold, but it does reduce their numbers. So it takes a little bit longer in the spring as we head into summer for the populations to build up. So it can help a lot with early season pest control for early in the spring.
We've had mosquitoes in the past week. So
really?
Yeah, that's kind of bad. We leave the door open. They got a little fenced in area that let the dogs in and go run out. And they really enjoy it. But the problem is, as soon as it starts to get dark, the mosquitoes start coming in the house. So, and this is pretty late in the season.
I rarely get them at my house at any time of year. My neighborhood's pretty good about not being overwhelmed with mosquitoes. So I guess I don't have neighbors that store tires and junk and buckets of water and stuff like that. Should be thankful for that.
Well, we don't live too far from a lake, and our property has an area that has seeps, and there are little water spots year round. So if we don't get a good killing frost, it's a problem. There, I don't know if you can hear all that racket.
I
or
heard
not.
that, yes. Well, Bernie, if you're cold, they're cold too, so let them in.
I think I'll go close their door. I'll be right back.
Okay. We need to have Alyssa, who's with Hernando County Mosquito Control, on again. I'll get a hold of her and invite her. We've had her on before. She's really good.
It's important to remember with frost, the same actually goes for fire as well, is that those things have been happening naturally for millions of years. So things are very adapted to those things happening. So when you have some kind of fluctuation where you don't have a frost, or you don't have or if something doesn't burn for a long time in a more natural area, like I said, those ecosystems are adapted to those cycles, and when they're not happening, that's when things get thrown all out of whack.
That's when we have problems. So I brought something I figured that we could discuss today. And this is something that I encountered last night. My wife and I went to a big box store to do some food shopping, pick up coffee and laundry detergent and this and that. I'm not going to name what store it was. And even though it was chilly this morning, spring is going to be here very soon. And it's that time of year where every store, even if they don't normally carry plants and bulbs and flowers and bushes, they carry them now for spring, because everybody's starting to think, spring gardening. I need to add some things to my yard, my landscape. And we have a lot of people who have moved here from up north, and they're thinking all the things that they're familiar with, things that they grew up north. So here, let me go ahead and share a picture. There's my lovely wife, and I had her hold up a package of some beautiful plants there, a Nika blue hydrangea and common purple lilac bush, and they look beautiful. And they're for sale right now. You can buy them and take them home and plant them and have beautiful hydrangeas and beautiful matching lilacs in your yard. So, Bernie, what's the problem with that plant selection?
It doesn't say you have to live in Ohio in order for them to grow. Those plants are not Florida-friendly plants at all. They do not survive here. And you have to remember, the merchants sell what people want to buy. And although they really shouldn't be selling those plants, if they don't, the next person down the street will. People go in and buy them. And, this is a case of, we're here to educate people not to make that mistake. And it's incumbent on us to get the word out. It's not the sellers that are going to change their ways. It's the buyers that need to change their ways. So
exactly. And we try to teach homeowners basically what's going to grow really well here and is really easy to grow. What kind of things, like probably that variety of hydrangea and definitely lilacs, will not grow here. And there's other things that may grow here, but they may fail. And it helps if you have a little bit more gardening experience. It's going to be a struggle. It's going to be a challenge. If you can actually keep it alive and make it bloom and have it look good, that's great. Congratulations, you win the prize. But yeah, we're here to help share information on different things that are going to do well. With hydrangeas, I had a lady email me a few weeks ago, and she said, I have these two different types of hydrangeas, and they look terrible. What do I do? And she gave me their names, and they're two specific variety names that I wasn't really familiar with. So I look them up online, and one variety grows as far south as maybe North Florida. So Buddy up in the Panhandle could probably grow them. You could grow them in Jacksonville. That's kind of the edge of their southern range. The other variety was such a northern variety, it was only rated for like northern Georgia, South Carolina. So it's definitely not going to do well all the way down here in Central Florida. So I told her that people just don't know.
Yeah, but you can buy apple trees. How about growing apples in Florida? 'Cause they grow great in Michigan. Why don't they grow here?
Oh, well, this time of year, whenever we go to a store, we pass these kind of things. I always look at my wife and say, honey, you want me to tell you what's going to grow here and what won't? She's like, no, tired of hearing that. Because some of them, and it's a funny mixture, because you go through, it's like, that'll grow here, that'll grow here. Caladium bulbs, they raise them in Florida. We have caladium farms in Florida. They'll grow just fine here in the shade. Lilacs, they won't grow here at all. Hollyhocks, and a lot of the other flowering things. At least I don't see too many flowering bulbs like crocus and tulips and things like that. You don't see them too often. Sometimes. And Corey brings up a good point that technically Anna and Dorset apples produce some apples. They can grow here in Florida, but what happens is, at least in Central Florida, I'm not sure. Probably up in the Panhandle, they're going to do better. South of here, they're really not. They're going to do worse. They just get eaten up with fungal diseases during the summer, and some people have success with them. If you're the 1 in 100 that's successful with growing apples here, you might get a few apples. If you look at time, effort, and money spent versus buying the ones at the grocery store that come from Washington State or Oregon or whatever, apples are just really, really difficult. I know of very, very, very few people that actually are successful with them.
Yeah.
Daffodils. Sorry, guys, they're not going to grow well here. Easter plants or the Easter lilies. You know, some of those lilies, the Asiatic ones, will grow here in Florida. A lot of the other lilies that they commonly sell around Easter as Easter lilies and things like that are not going to grow well. So if you have to look really close at the tag or try to find out the variety. If it's an Asiatic lily, many of them do grow here.
Yeah, peace lilies do very well in the shade. The big problem there is the protection they need in the winter. Once you go down in the high 30s, if you go below the high 30s, you really need to have them inside somewhere. They don't take frost at all.
Yeah, those are the only 2 houseplants that we have actually had success with and haven't killed. Sorry, guys, even I kill houseplants. So Corey says, yeah, when you don't have fire in ecosystems, it means more ticks. It can throw a lot of things out of whack. And the specific question about in Hernando County, do they use the BT Israeliensis on mosquitoes? Yes, they do. And we'll have to have our helper from Hernando County Mosquito Control back on here soon to tell you all the different ways and different things they do to control mosquitoes. They don't do a whole lot of sending the truck around, spraying the chemicals. They do as little of that as possible. If you have a legitimate big problem, they get a lot of phone calls and complaints from one neighborhoods, they'll do it, but they try not to do it.
The mosquito control website actually has, they have a map that shows everywhere that they've inspected, everywhere they've treated, and some really good information there. When it comes to the bacterial treatments, I know they use BTI, they use BS, which is the other one that is similar. It's a bacteria, soil-borne bacteria. And then that spinosad stuff, which are all like larval targeting things. That they got a lot of different, because they're big on like integrated pest management, so they have all different kinds of methods to target them at different stages to do all kinds of stuff. And maybe when she gets on, she'll be able to tell us a little more about that, because it is super interesting. I think IPM is super interesting.
I think spinosad's one of those products that is really great and way underused. That's everybody wants to start with a hand grenade when all they need to do is just kind of stomp on the bug with their foot or something. So, uh, Spinacid's a really great product and very effective. So,
Well, it doesn't.
It's the only thing that works really well on leaf miners because it actually goes into the leaf and works very well on Diptera because the majority of leaf miners are flies. That must be why it works well on mosquitoes also, and works really well on thrips.
Yeah. If you have the older roses, you know about thrips. That's a nasty little guy in rose plants. So,
and we even have a newer invasive species here. Can't remember the name of it. It's a problem with some ornamental crops, and they've done research on it, and they have a training or a presentation on it. And I think one of the things they recommend that works well is spinosad because it works well on all thrips.
Well, spinosad's also not. It's like I mean, it's not very toxic compared to other pesticides to like mammals, and I don't think it has a long. I don't think it like hangs around for a while in your ecosystem. I think it goes away pretty quickly.
Yeah, very short half-life. Breaks down quickly out in the environment. Approved for organic crop production. So, a lot of good points. Hey guys, if y'all have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. Any questions? Comments? Cindy likes growing amaryllis. They do. That's one of the bulb things that does really, really well here in Central Florida. A lot of people grow them.
Yeah. That's
They usually flower. They usually flower in the spring, not always. And since Corey's on, he asked the weekly question, what am I growing this week? I'm starting seeds and ordering the last of my seeds for my spring crops. I'm a little bit behind on it. I have tomatoes and peppers and eggplants coming up. Let's see. I grow mostly cherry tomatoes and Roma tomatoes because they're the easiest. Trying to grow the really big heirloom tomatoes is very, very, very difficult to do in the spring because it takes so long to grow that you run out of spring and you go into summer, and summer's terrible for growing tomatoes. You're going to have a lot of problems with diseases and pests and thrips and everything else in between. I got some broccoli. I got a picture. Give me a few minutes. I'll go ahead and
I'll make a prediction that we're not going to have a very bad February, but in either March or early April, we're going to have another frost. So if you really get your garden going and you've got a lot of plants set outside, just be aware of the fact that the potential is very, very high for a late March, early April frost, and be prepared to cover and take or some method of taking care of the plant. So don't get this super fantastic mammoth garden with everything just coming up, and then suddenly have a half acre that you're not going to be able to cover because you're going to lose a lot of things if you don't. And it always goes that way. So hopefully I'll be wrong, but the odds are I'm going to be right on this one, and a lot of people are going to be very upset. So just remember that. Buy your plants or your seeds, get them started, but don't go beyond your capability to cover until at least mid-April. And it's strange, but our weather is getting warmer and warmer, but our bad weather seems to keep getting later in the season.
And spring is not here yet. So, but your wintertime crops should be producing really well right now. And there's a picture of broccoli that I just picked the other day. And I have a few more.
Yeah.
I have a few more coming in behind it. I have a huge individual plant of Chinese cabbage. I'm going to turn into kimchi. I got radishes. I got some carrots, kind of a scattering of different cool season things still going on. So don't plant broccoli today. It's too late. This got planted a few months ago. So very, very important you plant things at the right time so they grow at the right time and mature before it becomes the wrong time, if that makes sense. We have a question from a faraway state. Ms. Lily Browning asks, we have purchased our own permanent Florida snowbird nest here in the trailer park in Bushnell. It's a park model with a small lot. I'll have to watch my own program on gardening for snowbirds. Lily, we're more than happy to have you on here as a guest. Do you want me to send you a link? You can pop on here. I don't care. We got a little bit over half an hour to go, and you can even come in live, and you can show us the park and some of your neighbors if you'd like, and we could talk about lilacs and hydrangeas. You know, I always thought about buying one of the 2-packs to give to you to take back to Pennsylvania, because they probably grow and do absolutely great up in Pennsylvania. Let's show that again. You probably would end up with those beautiful blue flowers and beautiful purple flowers in Pennsylvania, but it's probably not going to happen here. So
your soil pH changes the color on hydrangeas. Don't forget that. So.
And Lily, we're pretty casual here. You know, if you're still in your jammies, that's okay. I would be too if I could get away with it. Okay, well, if we have to go back to the unnamed big box store, I'll get something like that. And Corey, no, she's in Sumter County, not Pasco.
There's not one of those in Bushville.
So we do have a lot of snowbirds that come down here for the winter. And oh my gosh, there's so many parks in Pasco County and Hernando and Sumter, and so many people that live here just during the winter. And we get a lot of phone calls and questions from them. I had to go and speak right after New Year's, right after January 1st at the Snowbird Club. There's actually a Snowbird Club over at Timber Pines. And those are all, and there was like 60 people there. And they're all people who live here during the winter and go somewhere up north during the summer. And they have a lot of problems because they're gone all summer and they come back. And what do they find in their yard? Trees dead, bushes dead, lawns dead, things are yellow, things are broken, things are not the way that they wanted them to be when they return. And then their first question is, what happened? And a lot of times the answer is, I don't know. A lot of things could have happened. Summer is a long time. There's all kinds of stuff that could have happened to them. But we help them try to track down what they can do to remedy the problem. And what happens if a snowbird buys that lilac and plants it in Timber Pines, leaves for the summer? What are they going to find when they come back in the fall?
A dead plant.
A dead plant, yep.
One of the big things with that is when you're trying to, for snowbirds who are like leaving for a long time, that all starts with like when you're planning what you're going to put down. You want like low maintenance. That is the main thing, because obviously you're not going to be here. And even if you have someone that's, taking care of your yard while you're not there, you're putting a lot of trust in them to make sure that they do everything right, exactly how you would while you're not there. So it's really good to choose low maintenance plants if you're going to be leaving your house for a long time.
An interesting thing has happened. Back in the 1700s, early 1800s, some great naturalists went around and cataloged all the plants in Florida that were native. And they wrote books, and there are some really big, fat, thick books written by a half a dozen people that explain what was growing in an area. And those plants do fantastic. They're uh, they've been here for centuries. They've had plenty of time to become acclimated to our climate, to our soil type, uh, to our weather. Everything about it is just perfect. So what happens is people move here. They throw away all those plants. The more than 5,000 plants that grow perfectly here, and they either want to bring in plants from up north that aren't going to be happy, or they want to go get tropicals and plant tropicals. We're not tropical. We're not up north. And the 5,000 plants that are going to be perfectly happy, and nobody's using them. Those are native plants. Maybe some of the native plants aren't very pretty, but some of the native plants are very, very pretty. And the native plants, the key operative word is native. They're going to go in the ground here and be perfectly happy. So, you can buy a lot of tropicals. None of the tropicals were here. Those are plants that we're introducing. None of the things up north were here. Those are things we're introducing. And they do not like it here. And if you don't like it here, you're not going to be happy. And an unhappy plant does something really funny. It turns brown and falls over. And after you've done the turn brown and fall over thing, maybe it's time to look at some natives. For some of the applications, there are very, very pretty native plants that work perfect. I am not a native plant person. I'm one of those guys that if there's a plant that I really like the looks of, and it will do good here, then I'll use it. But by the same token, if there's a plant that looks nice and it's native, and I'm not going to have to worry about it unless it's some particular reason not to use it, it doesn't make sense to go out and buy a plant that is not going to be successful when for the same kind of money I can buy something that's going to really be happy. So native plants, our nursery is for the past year been really going heavy into native plants. Nobody seems to understand that the key word native means that it's going to do well. And if you're having problems at all, maybe that's a good place to start, is looking at natives.
And there is their address down below. Master Gardeners are there Wednesdays and Saturdays from 8:30 in the morning until noon. And they have a great selection of both Florida-friendly and native plants and a lot of good information. They're more than happy to answer, individual questions if you have them. Like, why is my lilac plant dying? I could answer that one.
Yeah.
We're picking on poor lilacs today. Sorry, guys. And, there are a lot of different various native plants and trees that are just underutilized because a lot of times landscapers or builders or subdivisions, they just get in this frame of mind where they fill the neighborhood up with, viburnums, which aren't native, live oaks. There's maybe 5 different trees they use 95% of the time. And there's a huge number of trees that will grow very well here, depending on exactly where you live and the type of soil you have. So go out there, and we have all the resources to let you know, kind of what the buffet looks like and what you can pick from. But there are a lot of underutilized trees out there that would do really well in people's yards and be very low maintenance and very, very few problems, very few insect problems.
Well, a really great example is firebush. Firebush is a beautiful plant. It gets killed by frost. So you plant a firebush, it grows up. It's got a great shape. It's a very, very pretty plant. Uh, if you're willing to accept the fact that once you have a frost, it's going to die, uh, you wait until the end of the season. You cut it right down flush at the ground. Mow over whatever. Just get rid of the dead plant. It'll come back, and in a very short time, it looks good. And by the end of the season, it's beautiful. And its only disadvantage is you get to watch it grow. It doesn't hold that nice exact shape year round. And I see nothing wrong with that. I don't think that's a native plant, but it's a plant that is extremely well adapted to our area. Its whole thing in life is to grow up, be beautiful, and die, and grow up and be beautiful. And it's like children. If you don't mind watching your child grow, it's a great plant. But if you want something that's going to be an entrance plant and it needs to stay the same year round, that's probably the wrong plant. So there are a lot of these neat plants that you can landscape with, that if you learn their limitations and work with them, they produce great results. And if you want a picture book effect where everything is uh, all done, they come in, they put in the plants, and it looks that way forever, you're in the wrong place. Florida is not where that happens. And uh, it's an education. Not only do you have to learn about plants, but you have to learn about expectations. And the expectations need to fit the community you're in. And uh, so many people just don't understand that, and it's sad. I I, I see the same thing in all aspects. You're in an area where the sales tax is 20% or whatever, and you move out of that state and you move to Florida because the taxes are lower. Don't complain because we don't give you free milk every week or whatever. You got that at home because you paid 20% sales tax. You don't get that in Florida. We don't have the income tax. We don't have a lot of things, and our sales tax is reasonable. So, by the same token, our plants are not necessarily going to do like they did up north. And if you pick the region you're in, if you want particular plants, you can maybe live in Gainesville and you can have a wholly different set of plants than you get in Hernando County. Or if you want a different look, you can move to south of Sarasota, someplace in the state, and you can have an entirely different look. But you need to understand that each little individual area of Florida has its own things going for it, has its own flora and fauna that are native. And if they don't have what you want, and you could have had what you wanted being someplace else in Florida, you probably fouled up on doing your homework. Uh, I would really like to be able to grow the plants that they have in Miami, but I don't really want to live in Miami. So I love what grows here after I found out what actually grows here. It took me a few years, but I watched a lot of things die, and now I have plants that don't die, or if they die, they only die to the ground and they come back really beautiful. And it really doesn't take long. And, a little research solves that problem.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to grow lychees and longans and mangoes in my yard and have the trees all grow really fast, but this is not Miami.
No.
And I can try growing those things, but I'm going to have to make arrangements to keep them warm, keep them covered in winter when we get a really bad cold front, and they may fail. Whereas if you plant them in South, oh my gosh, you plant them down in Miami, those things grow like great big huge weeds, and they'll flower and you'll get tons of fruit off of them. I'm jealous of you guys, but the traffic in Miami is horrible. So pluses and minuses, guys.
Yeah. Research. You just need to do the research.
Looks like Lily's going to try firebush. And Yopon hollies to make tea out of. Yummy.
That's a beautiful holly. That's a nice plant.
Yeah. And it's native. You never have to do anything to it. Trim it if you really want to. I wouldn't.
Yeah, that's a plant that grows up, takes shape, stays pretty much that plant. It's a good year-round plant. Great landscape plant. Totally underutilized. This because it's native. It's a simple plant. People look at it, but that's what this part of Florida really is. You really can't make Hernando County look like Miami. And you can't make Miami look like Hernando County. It's just not going to happen. And you absolutely cannot make Hernando County look like New Jersey. So, save your money.
So it looks like Lily is coming up with all of her gardening plans and making a list. Putting out dead palms for somebody to take. That's so nice of you. Nearly dead. So not completely dead. It's nearly dead. I'm sure one of the neighbors can kind of nurse it back to health.
Sagos are nice plants. They have a little problem with scale, but that problem is solvable nowadays.
I have a sago that is squeezed in the corner of my property. It's great filler. You do not ever need to do anything to it. Even if it gets scale or mealybug or whatever, if you leave it alone, a beneficial insect's going to come by and clean them up. Don't have to do anything to it.
You can hit them with a little of the neonic, and they don't even get the scale.
So, Bernie, would you recommend trimming mulberry and elderberry now?
I would. I would recommend both those plants now.
I'd say definitely mulberry. Elderberry may still get freeze damage. So, I mean, because this is February 1st, we're probably going to get some kind of freeze, I would guess, during February, maybe during March.
Elderberry's pretty tolerant. Elderberry grows all the way up into Michigan.
Yeah, they're generally native, so you could prune them back. But yeah, definitely the mulberries and the deciduous fruit trees, now's a good time to prune them.
Problem that I found with mulberry here is that they tend to have a short life. They're like peaches. Peach trees, a 30-year tree in Georgia, it's a 10-year tree, 12-year tree in Florida. And mulberry tends to be the same way. So don't get upset if you lose the mulberry prematurely. Usually they tend to have a rapid life in this warm climate.
Yeah, pecans are the same. Pecans they'll last maybe 10 years here in Hernando County. If you go to Gainesville, people grow pecans up there. If you drive out in the countryside, the right time of year, they're selling them by the road. They have huge pecan trees there. Of course, go up to Georgia, they have even better pecans.
Yeah.
So, folks, anybody has any questions, go ahead and if you could place them in the chat. And Jamie, yeah, you can keep taking cuttings of the mulberry tree. Mulberries they're going to root by cuttings really well, or do you have to do air layering?
I never tried to propagate one.
Yeah, mulberry, you should be able to take branches and start them as cuttings. If you have problems with that, air layering would probably work really well on mulberries. And if you look that up, University of Florida, I'm sure, has information on air layering. Not hard to do, fun to experiment with, good way to get new plants from other plants that are just really difficult to propagate.
The one thing that I remember about mulberries is I used to go out and eat them off the tree, just a dozen, handfuls, and had a great time. I'd come back, I'd be all purple. And one day, a buddy of mine said, pick a bowl and put a little milk on it before you eat it.
Oh.
That was a serious error, because floating on top of the milk was every kind of little insect that you could imagine. So it kind of took the bloom off of eating mulberries, but they are delicious. It's and you don't want one close to the house. The birds do make a big mess of everything if their mulberries are up real close to the house.
Yeah, you don't want to plant it where you're going to park your car right underneath it either. And Anne-Marie up there in the Panhandle, in darn near up in Georgia, elderberries grow like weeds up there. You should be able to grow pecans up there. You should have lots of at the right time of year. I get not really you pick pecans, but roadside stands.
Have you seen how they harvest pecans? They have a shaker, and they go up and they just shake the tree like crazy, and then they've got a little broom like thing that comes in and just sweeps up all the pecans. It's amazing how that works.
Oh, Anne-Marie says soak mulberries in vinegar. Interesting. I've never tried that before, and we can't specifically recommend it.
Well, we don't need to. Anne-Marie just did it for us.
There you go. And with the Yaupon holly, the seeds or berries are kind of messy. Birds eat them. And normally, you're not going to have a whole lot of berries that are going to be left over to fall to the ground and make a mess and have to be cleaned up or raked up. Normally, birds are going to eat an awful lot of the berries, not necessarily all of them, possibly all of them. So, Bernie, any idea why you'd have excess berries on a Yaupon holly?
No, but I think that's one of them that if you get a male tree, you get no berries. So it's possible to have a Yaupon holly without berries. So.
And Pennsylvania Lily says, dwarf Yaupon hollies are lovely little round bushes with no shedding. Yeah, they're the ones that a lot of people will shape to be little round bowling ball shape or size in front of your house. You can keep them pretty small if you want. And Teresa is here tossing links up in the chat. And Jamie wants to know, is this a good time to start tomato and peppers, or is it too early? No, if you're here in Central Florida, Hernando County-ish, you need to start your tomato and pepper seeds right now, today, in small trays. And they have a variety of different small trays, the little individual cells, 3-inch pots, whatever. People use Dixie cups, just poke a hole in the bottom for drainage. Start those seeds, put them in a tray. When it gets cold at night, bring them in. When it's sunny and warm outside, like it says that it's 51 outside right now, take them back outside, put them in the sun, get those transplants up and growing and ready to put in a container or in the ground, however you're going to grow them, late February or early March. Definitely by March 15th, you want to get them in the ground. So they need to be started today.
Just remember, you need to be able to protect them from frost after you plant them in the ground.
Yes, and when they're little and growing in trays, don't forget them and leave them outside overnight when we're going to get a frost, because they'll be dead the next morning. So somebody on our Facebook group says, we bought 2 bougainvilleas last year and they were not thriving where we planted them, so we moved them to a sunnier spot. They're doing better there, but recently lost all their leaves. Some leaves are coming back on the bottom now. Should I trim back the leafless part and they are in Lee County, Zone 10A.
I would say, yes, you should trim them back, but not until much later in the season. Wait until the end of April. Um, so, uh, it may be that some of the branch will come back, and if it doesn't, uh, the odds of a frost are very, very small. But they don't like cold weather, and that's a funny plant. Bougainvillea is probably the hardest plant to water of anything going. They don't like wet and they don't like dry. They're just annoying. So,
And I know if you plant one in your yard, it will either be very, very happy, take off and grow like a weed and require a lot of pruning, and they have huge thorns. If you put them in a spot and they're very unhappy, they will die quickly.
yeah,
So it's kind of feast or famine, and it's really hard to say that's a perfect spot, that's a terrible spot. Sometimes they either seem to work great or they die. Kind of no in between, really. Yeah, you may want to let it go and wait and see if those leafless branches start to leaf out again. Although they live down in Lee County zone, it's so strange hearing Lee County zone 10A. I think zone 10, I think Miami. But you don't have to worry about a freeze damaging it. Some cold weather could have knocked the leaves off.
yeah.
Too dry could have done that. Too wet could have done that. So the branches may leaf out again if you go and the branches are obviously dead. They're brown, they're brittle. Scrape it with your thumbnail and it's still brown underneath the cuticle. You could prune them off right now. If they're dead, they're not coming back. But you may want to be patient for a little bit and see if they leaf back out.
Yeah, you can always prune them off later, but you can never put them back. So
exactly. And bougainvilleas are beautiful in this area because they flower in the winter at a time where there's very little else flowering. So it really brightens up your yard, big attention getter. But I've seen some that are they're just huge and filled with thorns.
yeah, eat you alive.
So guys, if anybody has any questions, if you're watching this presentation as a recording, you can contact me. That's my email right there. If you need to get a hold of Bernie, Bernie is here on Thursdays, almost every Thursday. Every once in a while he's not, but almost every Thursday Bernie is here. So you can call the office phone number or stop by our office to see him live in person. He'll look at whatever insects you have a problem with, leaf spots, whatever it might be, and help you out. Of course, follow us on Facebook and go ahead and like us. Follow us. If you go to Facebook, that's pretty much the first place where we put every upcoming event, class, whatever it is. I'm in the process of putting together Eventbrite pages for we have a class coming up on Barbados cherries, one on citrus. We have a well and septic tank workshop here in Hernando County with the Hernando County Health Department. What else we got? We got compost for commercial growers. We got a lot going on. So go ahead and go to our Facebook page and click under events. And as we plan them out and post them, they're going to pop up there. Like Bernie said earlier, we have a Master Gardener Nursery, and they have a great selection of plants. There is their address. They are right behind the Hernando County Fairgrounds, right along State Road 41, here in beautiful Brooksville. If you want to watch recordings of past classes, go to YouTube. Look at the little search box up in the top, should be either top center or top left-hand corner, and type in Hernando County Government, and then hit the little magnifying glass, and your first choice should be Hernando County Government. So go to their YouTube channel. They have a lot of great videos. But if you look under the different sections on their channel, there's one for Florida Friendly Landscaping and one for Extension. So I have a lot of recorded classes under Extension. Florida Friendly Landscaping has well over 100 classes, most of which are about an hour long. So if you're looking up a specific topic, see if we've already done a class on it and go ahead and watch it. What else we got going on here? There is Colby's email. So if you have any Florida Friendly Landscape questions about rain barrel classes here in Hernando County, go ahead and shoot Colby an email. Or if you go to his link tree, that has links to all of his different things, his Facebook and everything else there. And I think that's about it.
You were talking about historic Brooksville. You know, the truth is, Brooksville is a beautiful little community. It's a small town, been there forever. It's hilly. It's got a lot of majestic oaks. The area close to downtown has a lot of large old homes. A lot of the wrought iron work on the old homes. A lot of gingerbread trimming on the homes. It's kind of a neat place, and it's one of those things that before the interstate was built, when you came to Florida from up north, you took Highway 41, and a lot of people remember going through this pretty little community, hilly with the big oaks, and when they put the interstates in, all those things disappear. If you get on the interstate, you miss what Florida really used to be, and it's nice, it's quick and it's convenient, but it sure isn't tourism anymore. So the people that have never been to Brooksville, if you can, it's just a great place to go. There's not the world's greatest restaurants here, but we've got some good ones. And of course, as time goes on, we keep adding every type of fast food there is, unfortunately. But the old downtown area itself still has a couple of just homey old restaurants, and we've got the old courthouse, and just a nice place to visit. So I invite you here to our home. Come take a look, and if you enjoy it, let your friends know. And if you think it's a dump, don't tell anybody. We'd appreciate you keeping quiet. So,
if it's not for you, move to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I've been spending a lot of time in downtown Brooksville lately. I've been playing pickleball over there at the park. Oh. And it is. There's those big old trees are so nice. You really get the feeling of a little small downtown, and it's really neat.
No, it's not too late. You may not get as much effectiveness as you want, but this is going to be a year where you really need pre-emergent. I would personally put it down now. I would put it down probably again, depending on which pre-emergent you use. Pre-emergents tend to last a little longer. They're like a 30 to 60 day treatment. So if you put it down now, it might not hurt to go another treatment in 60 days. And I would definitely do a fall treatment for the winter weeds this year, 1st of November. We're gonna have a lot of weeds this year, and pre-emergent's going to be the answer to solving that. So definitely.
And be sure to read the label thoroughly and apply the correct amount.
Yeah.
And it will tell you how long it lasts for, so you know when to put down a second treatment.
Follow the directions on the box for two reasons. One, the people that are selling it have figured out what absolutely works the best. And second, the label is the law. If you don't do what the box says, you're violating the law.
If you use it improperly and bad things happen, then you should have followed the label correctly.
There are, she said she loved her 100-year-old home. There are some gorgeous 100-year-old homes in Brooksville. Unbelievably nice place. There's I went out taking pictures of the homes. I'm involved in a ham radio group, and we send pictures of things back and forth. And there's just some gorgeous places. And once you start, you find out there's some little roads that don't go anywhere that have got more gorgeous homes on them. So I was just like an explorer downtown, having a ball, finding all these new little things, and didn't realize what a great community we live in. And it's, you live your everyday life and you miss half of what's going on. And when you get to be old enough that you're not living anymore, then you realize what you've missed when you see these things. But it really is a great place, and it's a great time to see these things. And there are some beautiful landscapes too. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with stealing ideas. If you go and you see something you like, especially if it's an older home and it's got something that's really gorgeous, it's probably been there for a long time, means that if you copy that, that's something that's going to last a long time for you too.
Yep.
So and instead of going to the big box store and buying something that's not appropriate, if you go out and look and see what these people have got. Exactly.
Not like the lilacs.
Yep, not like the lilacs. But if you go find a plant, that's what you need to be planting. The things that grow here and grow well, and it's a great education of what does grow here and what grows well. So there's a lot of good reasons to go investigate. And if you live in some other part of the state, that's still true. If you're up in Gainesville or any of those places, go around and see what is really working well for somebody else. Steal all the good ideas. Doesn't cost you anything. It's not copyrighted. They can't sue you. Well, they probably could sue you, but they won't get by with it. And unless your name's like an ex-president or so. So, yeah, I blew that, didn't I? But so I didn't mention
a couple last-minute questions here. When is a good time to take a cutting from a bougainvillea? What is the process? You should be able to try it any time of year. Normally, the fairly new growth is probably going to root the best. So if you take them in late spring, early summer, that would work the best. Old branches that grew last year and are still sitting on the plant, they're going to root the worst, although they may still root. Just cut a branch off, leaving at least one or two nodes. Those are the little spots where leaves and roots can come out from, and put it in a container of moist potting soil. Keep it moist. And if you take, I always overdo it. If I want to start a plant from a cutting, I'll start 10, 20, 30, 50 cuttings. Because I figure, well, at least one of them is going to root. And sometimes they all root. So some plants root very, very easily. I think bougainvillea is fairly easy to root. So you should have good success with that. And Diana, if you are referring to our upcoming class on Barbados cherries, that is on Eventbrite. And if you go to the Eventbrite page and you click on tickets or purchase tickets, that's where you need to go to put in your information and go ahead and actually pay and get a ticket for that event. So if you have any other problems, shoot me an email. I think that you already did, so I'll get back with you later on today. Down also in Zone 10A, young lime and lemon trees took a hit during Hurricane Ian. I'm sure they did with where you live. They are finally starting to fill out with leaves again. Is there any kind of fertilizer or manure, something that we should add to help them to start to fruit? A quality citrus fertilizer. Very, very important because it has all the micronutrients the citrus needs. And citrus is very particular about its micronutrients.
And should be fertilizing these things 3 or 4 times a year.
Yes. I've heard granular fertilizer 3 or 4 times a year, and then the liquid micronutrients, a foliar spray at least once a year. I'm terrible with that. I'm always behind on that, but that's ideally how you should do it.
Yeah, those plants should do pretty well. If they were damaged, you're probably looking at 2 to 3 years before they really start going well again. But once they do, then they'll grow very fast. But if they've been beat up, they'll take a while to recover.
So orchid trees, I have one maybe 2 blocks away from my house. And Cindy's asking about taking a cutting from it. You could try. My guess is for an orchid tree, air layering is going to work much, much better. Although if you get a newer branch, kind of a branch tip, you can definitely try taking a cutting from it. If it's way too thick, tree branches don't root very well as a cutting. It should be about pencil thickness or so, or less, Bernie.
Yeah.
So Cindy lives in Pinellas County. We have them up here. Technically, I believe we're at the northern edge for those, aren't we?
I had one and only lasted 2 years. It got nailed in the freeze. So
yeah, but it's one of those things. I've seen a few around town that are huge and do great, but it's not the norm. So Bernie, Corey has a few other plant selection questions here. Saguaro cactus, redwoods, they're going to do well here in Central Florida?
No.
Okay.
No, they won't. We don't have the right climate for either one of those things.
I think those cactus, they can't have, their soil can't be too wet. They can't handle it if it gets too cold. They can't handle X, Y, Z. Think about where those actually grow.
Actually, saguaro cactus, I've got pictures of them with snow on them. So
really?
Wow.
But they are a dry climate plant. They want hot, dry while they're growing, and we don't have hot, dry. We have hot, humid. They don't care for the humid at all.
Yeah, and Cindy, there's Teresa put a link up to University of Florida fact sheet on orchid trees. You probably want to be kind of careful and read that and check. I'm not sure if they're considered invasive in South Florida or not, or if it depends on the specific variety or species of it.
I think after you get them up and growing well, that they're reasonably cold hardy. That it's probably the first 5 years or so that they're tough. If I remember right, there's actually one on the campus up at UF in Gainesville that's a pretty good sized tree. So
yeah, but even there they have microclimates. They had a huge avocado tree in Gainesville. It's in kind of a court. It's surrounded by buildings. It's in a courtyard, and on one wall there's a huge air exchange, and the tree is right in front of it. All winter long, when it gets freezing cold at night, it's getting warm air blown on it the whole time. So, but anybody else in Gainesville, they put an avocado in the middle of their front yard, it's going to freeze and die.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's about that time, so we'll go ahead and finish up here with Ms. Lily Browning saying she's taking a class on Pennsylvania trees. That's great. They have trees up there. And they always talk about salt tolerance, and it's referring to road salt. We don't use a whole lot of road salt down here.
Same reason you don't buy a used car from up north.
You know, Bernie, after the last hurricane, which here would have been Hurricane Ian, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it made landfall at Keaton Beach, which is just north, not that far north of here. And I know Citrus County got a lot, Crystal River area got a lot of flooding. Hernando Beach, where basically the Gulf of Mexico came in, covered everybody's yard, and less than 24 hours later, the Gulf of Mexico went back out again. And I'm thinking, wow, everybody's yards got flooded. Their lawn, their bushes, their bougainvillea, their orchid tree, all these different various things. I wonder, I need to look up information on what kind of things are generally salt tolerant, what things are just going to up and croak. And there's no good information out there. I can't even find information on if you have a St. Augustine lawn, what happens if it sits under salt water for 6 hours. I found one article from University of North Carolina that was pretty good. But, obviously conditions up there are a little bit different. Not a whole lot of information other than if you look at different various trees, it says that it's salt tolerant, little salt tolerant. But I'm thinking, if it sits under salt water for a couple of hours, is it tolerant enough for that? Because normally salt tolerance, that refers to when the wind blows, salt spray, a light coating of salt. I guess I'm going to have to look it up in one day and write some information on it for the next hurricane that comes and floods everybody's yards for part of a day.
See, now that would have been a good thesis for somebody going for a doctorate.
That would be. And I know if I ever need a title for anything, just turn to Lily. Lawns underwater. Yes, sea grapes and a lot of other things, railroad vine, those kind of things, but they grow on the beach at the coast. There are certain things that if the high tide comes up and covers them over, doesn't really bother them. But other things that you would normally see in somebody's front yard, I couldn't find a whole lot of really clear information. I think mostly what I was looking up was turf grass. So St. Augustine, will it die? For sure. Will it maybe die? Will it be damaged, but you need to be patient and wait? I'm not sure. Couldn't figure it out. So, guys, I think that's about it. Let me go ahead and show my email one more time. And if anybody has any really, really difficult questions, go ahead and call Teresa. That's the phone number for the front desk there. And for anybody watching this after the fact as a recording, please feel free to get in touch if you have any other questions. Or let me check my calendar. Yes, I will be here next week. You guys both going to be here next week?
I believe so.
I'll be here.
Okay. I'll get a hold of Alyssa. I'll see if she wants to come on and talk mosquitoes. Oh, Teresa says for the really hard questions, call Colby. So
I'll be like, I'll tell him to call Bernie. Wait till Thursday.
Your question will circle about and circle
Yeah.
and circle.
Someone will eventually be like, I don't know, just Google it.
Okay, Anne-Marie, you're very welcome. Thank you so much for hopping on. Monique, same thing. Thank you so much. Everybody take care. And we will see all of you again. Yeah, we can't use Lily a whole lot anymore. We'll have her on as a guest, though. So we'll get her out. We'll have her set her alarm clock and get up and get out of her jammies and be able to log on at 10 a.m. like the rest of us. I'm at the office. Colby, you at the office?
Oh yeah.
Bernie, you're in the room at the other end of the office here. We're all at the office dressed, so Lily can be too. So, hey, guys, thanks again. We will see everybody back here again next Thursday morning at 10 a.m. So be sure to stop back by with all your pictures and questions and everything else. Until then, thanks. See you all then. Bye.
Bye.
Have a good one.